You're listening to Beyond the Sermon, the podcast of First Methodist Church in Collingswood, New Jersey. On our podcast, the goal is not just to share the sermons we've preached, but to go beyond the sermon and talk about what we're learning and what God is doing in us and in our community. For Advent 2025, we are in a series called Brought to the Light, Advent for All Who Need It. This series is looking at the themes of Advent and how Jesus comes to us all. You can find more information about our church at fumccollingswood.org. Thanks for joining us for this conversation.
Well, now I don't get your reaction. That's lame. Never mind.
We were having I thought we were having a pre-production conversation.
Oh, no. Well, you record half of those anyway.
Well.
Anyway, I was forewarning Scott that this may be our first explicit podcast, not due to the language, but due to the topic, or at least the first topic.
Is it because of what I said about Zechariah?
Which part do you think would lead to explicit with Zechariah?
When I said he went home, with a renewed hope and eager to play his part in the in the story.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So, if you don't want to hear your pastors talk about that, then skip. I'll give you like 5 minutes. Just skip 5 minutes into the podcast. I never thought about that.
Yeah, only Jesus was a virgin birth.
Not that sex was needed. Obviously, it's part of the process. There isn't a specific timeline given between him coming home and her getting pregnant.
Yeah, it just says a short time later.
So, this man that him and his wife have not been able to make a kid for years, decades.
Yep.
Is now told you can't talk until you have a kid.
Yep.
Which then he means roughly minimum 9 months if it goes perfect first time.
Sure.
If it doesn't go perfect first time, how long is this man waiting?
Yeah.
And the eagerness isn't maybe the eagerness of his youth.
Right.
It's the eagerness to talk again. And so that dynamic must have been fascinating.
Well, and that's why, Elizabeth must have thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
He comes back not able to talk with a goal in mind, right?
What sign language did he use to get that point across?
Yeah.
Or writing or whatever it may be. And then it's I just imagine marital arguments of Elizabeth, you don't even want me, you just want to talk again.
Which, knowing most guys, isn't even true.
I can't, because Rebecca does what she is oh, that must have been a happy 9 months for Elizabeth. And that's what kickstarted me, and I started laughing not because of the the man was finally quiet. I was it was more than 9 months. It had to have been more than 9 months. So how long? Yeah, these are the dynamics that I never thought of. I just think you heard it. Shut up. 9 months, baby, bam. And
yes, at least 9 months.
Yeah, at least 9 months.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know exactly what a short time later was. So yeah, soon afterward is how the NLT puts it. I don't think it was months and months and months. And, God was involved, and so maybe it didn't take all that long.
Yeah.
But even still, right,
they don't know that.
Excuse the graphicness of it, but they didn't have a little thing to pee on. And no, they didn't know she was pregnant until either she started showing a little bit, or if she got real morning sick.
Missing a period would probably help.
Yeah, for sure.
But still, up to
I mean, you're talking a month or so later, and
Yeah, nervousness. Yeah, that's a wild.
If she even still had her period.
What?
She was old.
Oh shoot, she was super old.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't have been
right.
I couldn't handle those mental gymnastics. I guess that's where the faith comes in.
I guess.
Not being able to talk until this thing happens, and then months, even if it is already started, the process has begun.
Yeah.
Not knowing. That's a whole thing. And then, how you pointed out with all these promises of how their son was going to be, how important their son was going to be, and then how John turned out, which verified the prophecy and the message given to them by the angels, but probably not in the way that they expected.
Sure.
Right? You think, like, especially with Zechariah and them being like priestly family, it's like, okay, he's gonna be the greatest priest that ever priested.
Sure.
And lead the people in the church to the coming Messiah, not live out in the middle of nowhere wearing itchy clothes and eating bugs with honey.
Yeah. I mean, having eaten grasshoppers before, they're not bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I've had a good plethora of bugs as a kid, and then in a exotic food market in Mexico City, and some of them are delicious. I don't remember having locusts, though.
Yeah, well, that's why I said grasshoppers. But in Uganda, it was a seasonal thing. Like, there was a certain time when the grasshoppers would come, and they would set up these whole elaborate like net things to catch them and funnel them and all these, and then like you could get like little bags of fried grasshoppers on the side of the road.
I know grasshoppers are popular.
And locusts are basically grasshoppers.
Yeah, ants in Australia.
Oh, we also ate white ants.
Oh, okay. White? Are they actually white?
Yeah. They're
interesting.
They're a bit more like termites than ants.
Huh.
They would come out after the first big rain after the dry season.
Yeah. And then I had a friend eat spiders in Thailand, I think.
Oh.
It's like a normal street food.
Okay.
Yeah, my least favorite, though, was scorpion because it had zero flavor.
Just crunchy.
It's just super crunchy, everything getting in your teeth.
I've stepped on a scorpion
No
before.
reward.
Yeah.
Zero reward with a scorpion. But anyway.
Yeah, and I was thinking back to the prep work that I did for that sermon series 2 Advents ago on John the Baptist and preparing the way. And I was reminded that one of, at least some scholars, think that Zechariah might have died fairly early in John's life, due to his age. And so just the interplay of how long was Zechariah watching and observing. But either way, you get a message like that, and I feel like you got to be expecting all kinds of things.
Yeah. I don't know, and I love the reflecting or the contrast between Zechariah's reaction and Mary's reaction, where Mary's the young believer Jew, whatever you want to call her, and her just being like, how will it happen? Like, I trust that it's going to happen. How will it happen?
Yeah, I don't understand the logistics.
Yes. And where Zechariah, priest, even, has the opportunity to go and, do the sacrifices or the blood?
He was doing the incense.
The incense, right? But, like, to be in high enough that he's even amongst the options to pull a lot to be there, and yet he's the one that...
Give me a sign.
More.
What's the sign gonna be?
Yeah.
Which, not dissimilar to Moses when God speaks to him out of the burning bush, and he's like, well, what sign are you gonna give me? And God says, well, here's the sign I'm gonna give you. Once you've done it, once you've led the people out of Egypt, you'll worship me here on this mountain. I got him at most like, that's not a sign, God.
After you do the thing.
Yeah, after you do the thing, you can trust that you did the thing.
Yeah. No, it's God's so funny.
He really is. And I think we try to gloss over that because it feels irreverent. But I really do think God and Jesus, I think we see through the Gospels, I think he had a sense of humor.
Oh, yeah.
I think God has a sense of humor. And sometimes I think he does stuff be like, okay, Leah, we're going to enjoy this one. Not in a mean way, but...
And playing with you for the sake of playing with you, but it's the... Because in all of those circumstances, it draws people into a deeper faith.
Yeah. Yep.
And so doing it in a way that we wouldn't anticipate might be more amusing. But, it's always for our good. It's not just like dance, monkey, dance.
Right.
And as you're leaning into like Zechariah being amongst the more righteous, I have down righteousness still unprotected from disappointment, suffering, and shame.
Yeah. Luke said that they were righteous in the sight of God and careful to obey all of his commandments and requirements, something like that. And I talked about how even though they were seen as righteous people, it didn't protect them from the suffering and shame of being childless and just the weight of that. Like, just because we're good with God doesn't mean that we're not gonna experience suffering and disappointment in our lives. In fact, I think it's probably the opposite.
Yeah, it's interesting in different Christian circles where it seems like if you do enough of the good things, then it weighs God in your favor and he owes you one. When no matter all that we do, we always owe him everything.
Yeah.
So that, as I've been reading, maybe it was Aquinas, I can't remember, reading a lot of old church fathers and writings and theologians.
As one should.
Pre-Reformation. And one of the things, he does this interesting, like, answering questions through, like, a faux dialogue.
Yeah.
Like a fake dialogue. So it's like asking the question, and then from his perspective, answering it, and then as another person following up on that, and then so he gets into the like, how could we save ourselves or justify ourselves before God? And he's like, okay, well, if the baseline is that we owe God our everything, and like everything we do should be glorifying for him and for his will and purpose and all of that, as soon as we sin and deviate from that, we're automatically at a deficit. So trying to make up for the deficit by going back to what the standard should be doesn't make up for the deficit. It just gets you right back on the right path of how things are supposed to be. We can never go above that thing. And that really, it was just a great way for me to better imagine and visualize, like, there's literally no way to earn God's grace, earn God's salvation, like ourselves, like all of those things.
Yeah, but it's essentially it's an implicit prosperity gospel. Like,
explain prosperity gospel.
Prosperity gospel being that we believe that if we're doing what God has told us to do, he's automatically going to bless us and give us health and wealth and all the good things. So you see this a lot in, honestly, a lot of televangelists who are out there, if you do this, send in this, believe this, pray this, then God's going to bless you, and you send us this much money and God's going to give you even more. And it's an appealing theology, but it's wrong. What we do doesn't obligate God to anything. And at its best, our response of obedience is just a response of gratitude in recognizing all that God has done for us.
Yeah. So just the other day, I posted on the youth Instagram story. It's just a phrase that says, "You cannot be thankful for what you feel entitled to."
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And so it connected with our youth, because when we had our Friendsgiving potluck, I was like, and I got a question for everybody. And they were like, oh, what are we thankful for? And I said, no, we're going to do, what do you take for granted? And went around the table. I was like, but if you want to do the traditional one, you can do what we're thankful for. Because then you have to really think about what you should be thankful for.
Yeah.
And don't give God the glory. And so, Scott, what do you take for granted? I'll go first while your wheels are turning. One of our kids said access to water or access to clean drinking water. And I would say that I don't take for granted the access to water, but to clean drinking water, I think I take for granted. Because in my mind, I was like, well, if you have water, it's drinkable. Like, that's the, I don't know why.
Right, so yeah, you're taking it for granted there.
Yeah, so I take for granted the clean access. Like, I'm very grateful to be able to get water wherever, but I just assume that anywhere I go, it should be clean and I'm able to drink it. And there's this new exhibit in Franklin, Tennessee, where it's like an interactive showing you like the clean water problem, and they have a wall of different colored waters that people actually drink around the world. There's a blue one. I was like, how do you get a blue one?
Oh.
Yeah, and so just a very immersive experience of things that we aren't even close to experiencing here.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why I'm struggling to answer the question, because of the experiences I've been privileged to have in life. A lot of those things that we normally take for granted here in America, I don't anymore. Like when we were in Uganda, they told us initially, eventually we did, but they told us, like, don't even brush your teeth with the water coming out of the sink because you'll get parasites.
Not the fun ones.
Not the fun ones. So, like, everything we drank there, even, to make our coffee or, to make dinner or whatever, it all came out of a filter that we had to make sure we kept topped up with so we didn't run out. We had to clean off the filters, every few days to make sure that they were still filtering and then didn't just get clogged up with all the gunk that came. So, water's not. Maybe to an extent food. I've never had to go to bed hungry when it wasn't by choice. And that's a real thing. Some people would say, oh, a house to live in, but as a pastor in a Methodist system where, our housing is connected to our service, it's different, right? Like coming here from Mullica Hill, we didn't know what the house was going to be like. We don't get to choose the house we live in. It's just like, here's the parsonage, whether you like it or not.
Which we do. We very much do.
Very grateful. Absolutely. But there's still that sense of like,
you have no idea what
we don't know where we're going to live. If it's going to be, here in Collingswood, we're right next to the church. Yeah. In Mullica Hill, we were on the other side of town, and like we don't get those.
And I had a friend who had a studio that was connected to the church, and people would just try and barge it,
like a rectory almost. Yeah, that would be tough. And then just even with the uncertainty of the future of our church these days, like, I don't know where we're going to be living this time next year. That's just part of it, and that's okay, but some of those default answers that come to us,
for sure.
I was sorting through. I was like, oh no, I don't really like, but I think food would be the big one.
For me, backpacking is always a humbling experience of like the needs and necessities of life and not taking for granted. You got to carry it all. So if you want it, you got to work for it and carry it, and it's still not going to be as great as home and all that kind of stuff. But, and I guess the last thing I want to touch on from your sermon would be the section where you're talking about encountering God in the hopelessness. And so I was wondering if you had a personal example of a time in which you encountered God in a situation that seemed hopeless.
This one goes back a ways, and I think I might have shared it in a sermon before, but people don't remember anyway, so it's okay. But thinking about all these stories here in Advent of new babies and all that kind of stuff, and when we first had Tim, we were right at the end of my seminary career and about to begin fundraising to go to the mission field. And so we, right after he was born, like within 2 months, were with our mission organization, they're giving us the calculation of here's everything you're going to have to raise on a monthly basis and a one-time basis in order to be kind of cleared to go to the mission field. And that felt almost impossible. And then we get back from that Christmas trip and going to and getting that support calculation, and we come back and we're just opening all these bills from the hospitals and the doctors from Tim's birth. They never actually come like that week or whatever. It's 2-3 months later.
Yeah.
And so we're just opening these, and just with the support calculation in our mind, we're just opening these bill after bill after bill. And we get to the bottom of the stack, and there's the insurance adjustment and kind of the explanation of benefits and all that they were going to pay. And we're like, oh, okay, like we can manage this. Even in the midst of what felt overwhelming, we can manage this. And then the next day, maybe 2 days later, that's a little fuzzy. That was 17 years ago. We get in the mail, there's another piece of mail from the hospital. And we're like, oh no, like, what now? Like, and it was actually a check, because when we had prepaid something, we had overpaid. Like, what they estimated was more than what they needed. And it was like almost to the exact amount of the part that was left for us to pay. And in the midst of the hopelessness of having to raise support to be able to go and serve Jesus, it was, God met us in that moment, even where we got to the point where we felt like we could handle it. And he was like, no. I've got this. And so that was a neat way of seeing God show up for us. How about you?
I think that's all the time we have for let me think. In a sense, God shows up because I can't remember the last time something felt hopeless. Which is all him. It's not a ignorant bliss or just pushing off the bad things. Like, there's situations that come up and I'm like, oh, I completely understand why other people would be hopeless with these circumstances or with the state of their surroundings or whatever it may be. I'm trying to think pre-Columbia, because I feel like post-Columbia, I guess hopeless-ish. More just like my stupidity was...
Well, and maybe reframe it. It doesn't have to be hopelessness. It was, for Zechariah and Elizabeth, it was unmet longing.
That might help.
Because I think that even changes it for me. To think about it that way. There are any number of things that I'm living with even now that feel like unmet longings and hopes that haven't happened.
I got one.
Go
for you. Give context. I was at a planning retreat with youth pastors like 4 years ago. We're in some random Airbnb in the middle of the Poconos, and we're all in a hot tub. And the one guy who's leading us, he's really good about making sure that people are intentional about Sabbath and sabbatical if they've been in the ministry long enough, and making sure that like time and like your goals are included in the equation of ministry, and it's not just everything else to the side and the 1,000% to ministry. Just because he doesn't want people to burn out and a bunch of reasons. And so sometimes I think he can go a little too far with it, or it's like more than maybe I would put, but I'm always hesitant. Anyway, so going around, he's like, what's that like dream trip that you keep telling yourself will never happen? And where in the next 10 years could you realistically fit that into your schedule? And each guy was going around and giving their answers, and all great answers. And some of them since have been able to go. They like rented a sailboat and sailed for like 2 weeks in the Bahamas. And like,
Wow.
No, like they were sailing. It wasn't like a hired captain. They were. Anyway, and it got to me, and I was like, I know my answer, but I don't desire it like I once desired it. The Te Araroa Trail in New Zealand. It's a through hike, a long hike, goes from the northern point to the southern point of New Zealand, and you get to see beaches, you get to see cities, you get to see lake villages, big mountains, like a whole spectrum of stuff. And it would easily be a 4 to 6 month trip to.
So similar to what people here would think of as like doing the Appalachian Trail through hike or Pacific Coast Trail or something like that.
So it's, but it's shorter because I'm lazy.
Well, and it's New Zealand. It's only this big.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's definitely it. But I was sharing with him, it's like with all the traveling that I've been blessed to do and see, that as much as I enjoy it, and I might be going somewhere next year, but as much as I enjoy it, it doesn't compare to the joy and the blessings of what I've seen God be able to do in and around me and through me in ministry, but not like even official ministry, but just like living out the faith and the family, friends, whatever it may be, are moments that you couldn't pay to experience.
Yeah.
And so seeking after the stuff that you could pay to experience to a certain degree, right? It's like, okay, well then that, and this stuff's for the most part free or relatively cheap to experience and witness God. And so for me, it's like, well, that, as wonderful of an opportunity as it would be to see more of God's creation, whether it be how he reveals himself in nature around the world or through the different cultures and people and the creativity he has in all of these people that live life in so many different ways that all reflect his image to a degree. But none of it is going to compare to little other glimpses we get here, but also where we go when we die. And so why am I going to invest all the time, money, effort, and thought into things that don't compare to glory? Oh, you compare small glimpses, right?
Yeah.
Little pieces of it. But I feel like the time given can be used for so much more important eternal things. And glory is going to be so much better. And so it's not a don't go on vacation, don't spend time with your families, don't get right. But is that all of this work I've done for, in my case, you could say like, if I do 5, 6 years ministry, 10 years of ministry, is my end goal and sight like, oh, I know this is really annoying and rough, but I'm getting to that sabbatical, and that's going to make it all worth it. And I'm going to be able to go to wherever I want to go and travel and whatever it might be. Like, all of this is going to be worth it for this vacation. And I know some people that like 2 a year, they have one Christmas break, they have one in the summer, and it's like, I'm just getting through these 6 months to get to this trip. Yeah. Working these 6 months to get to this trip. It's like, what if we had that same hope? Would be a great theme for this week in what happens after this lifetime. And also hope that God, through his power, can use us to bring a little bit of that here to earth and just provide Jesus to more people so that they can experience him now and be with him for eternity. Did I just close the podcast with wisdom?
You did.
Awesome. Someone take note of that.
Well, that's our conversation for today. But that doesn't mean the conversation is over. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these topics as well. To ask a question about anything we've discussed in this episode or to join the conversation, you can head over to fumccollingswood.org/podcast. Thanks for being part of this conversation.